Okay, we have a pretty good setup. Our form handler now just makes one call to all error messages, gets back an entire array, and then we can just print that with using another function. Inside for those validation functions, we have the high-level validation function that calls maybe a helper for each field, and we have test cases for those. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how we have things set up. There's two things I still don't like. So let's go ahead and clean those up and then call it a day for the server-side validation. Really, these are both, again, just sort of general software principles. But the first thing is if I look at the code for all error messages, I'm a little bit ashamed of it. Let's go and make it a little bit wider. I don't mind the long lines, especially with wider screens these days. 100 characters is not bad. So, but you know, it's like these sets of, there's 3 pairs of lines there that's each very repetitive. As I was editing them, I had to like keep changing, making the same similar changes every time through. So I'd like to refactor that out. Note that, again, for the checkbox, if it's sort of one line and I'm only using it once, I'm fine with that. If I'm doing it several times, I might make a general all-purpose validation function, validate checkbox, something like that. Again, if I'm validating a drop-down menu, probably in array is good. I'm like, hey, is the thing that I came from the drop-down menu one of the valid options that was in that drop-down menu? Again, with attackers, we need to be able to check that. Yeah, but there's a built-in function called inArray, and I'm happy with not having any additional function for that. If this string is in this array, or if it's not in the array, then go ahead and make an error message. Okay, so where are we? So what does this code do? I call string invalid message with quest and 20 and true, and then I do the safe lookup. I get the string back. If it's not equal to false, then I stick it into my array with the index quest. So here's this is not really a huge high-level abstract function, but I don't like all this repeated code. So I'm going to go ahead and say something like add string invalid message to array, or something like that. Okay, and what's the information that's being repeated in all of these? The fact that there's quest, the fact that it's coming from form info. So here's the array, here's the field to look up. 20 and true were the things that were used for the validation. And I'm going to go ahead and I want to, if there is an error message, I want to put it into some other array. So give me the existing array, all errors, and this function will return a new array that maybe has one more item added to it. Okay. A lot of people want to say, hey, let's just make all errors global between those two different functions. Yeah, if it's easy to avoid global variables, I prefer it, and it's easy enough here. I just add that extra array component going in. So, okay. So that's going to replace these 2 lines here. Just go ahead and write the little helper method add string invalid message to array. That's a mouthful, isn't it? Function. Grab that there, and it's given, and now I can be a little bit more general if I want. I don't know, or I can give the same names, especially since this is a helper function very finely tuned to help me with all error messages. It's not going to be one I really repeat in broader contexts, I imagine. Okay, so I'll go ahead and call it form info, the key that I'm looking up, the maximum length of the string, whether or not space is allowed. What did I call it back up in string invalid message? Space, max allowed len and spaces allowed. Let me use those same names, max allowed len and spaces allowed. And then the message array. Okay, whew. And what are we going to do? I'm going to go and copy and paste these two lines here. I'll delete them actually, maybe. Move them up here, and now Taylor, I'll have some new message, the error message for whatever field is, string invalid message, a safe lookup. I'll use form info. I use that same parameter name. I use whatever key I had. Return the empty string if it's not in there. Max allowed len. And use whether or not spaces are allowed. So do all that. If error message is not equal to false, then the message array of key will get the error message. Okay, so that's my helper function, add string invalid message to array. Whew. But now it's going to be, in fact, I almost find it easier to start from the top. Form info, I have quest, favorite, color, that was 15 with not owing that. And finally we had message with 1,000 that did allow spaces in it. Okay, so and then I'll leave that checkbox separate. Okay. Gosh, did I make a mistake in doing all this? I could well have. Let's find out. Validate. You know, there's a lot of copying and pasting, and easy to do things just a little bit wrong. So I'll validate test.php, and oh, I have actually just a syntax error in my file. So I will go and shamefacedly remember to put semicolons on the end of these lines. Run my tests, and I do get some errors here. Undefined variable error message, and some tests failing. So let's go ahead and fix those right now. And I'll go ahead, I'm going to use the magic of the pause button and go ahead and fix those. Poof!